then she jumps and does this wild, like, spin where she's like a pizza. Hey, Rogue.
Hey, Zaxers.
So, we've got some trash today.
Oh boy. Is that... Isn't that every day?
Well, I feel like... Okay. I'll say this is like gourmet trash.
Ooh.
Because we're going to be talking about the Kissing Booth sequel. The first Kissing Booth doesn't get its own video because I'm going to just pick stuff that's relevant when we get into this. But when it first came out, it was the most rewatched movie on Netflix.
Why?
Kissing Booth 2 is already in the trending. Like, they both are back on trending.
I don't understand.
It's, for those of you who don't somehow know, the Kissing Booth is based off a Wattpad story. And it is very much a Wattpad story.
Yeah.
Let me just do a quick recap of the first movie. Two codependent mothers, one of them being Molly Ringwald, raise their children who happen to share the same birthday to be just as codependent on each other. This ultimately leads to Joey King's character becoming the pawn in two rich brothers' game. Joey King plays a girl who's always had a crush on her best friend's brother, finally gets him, toxic drama ensues, they canoodle under the Hollywood sign, Noah beats up everyone, including his brother. His brother's pretty salty about them dating, but ultimately gives his blessing despite his many, many valid misgivings about the relationship, and it's pretty easy to get into Harvard.
I mean, that part's the only true part, I guess. It's the only part that's true to real life.
Oh my gosh. So, this movie, it's just to like sort of break it down into chunks. There's the best friend. He's got his own little arc going on, and then Joey King kind of has two different arcs going on. One, because it's a sequel of a love story, now we got to make it a love triangle. Because that's the only thing that we can really do there.
That's how sequels to love stories go.
Yeah.
Either that or introducing two new characters or side characters from the other one and having their own love story, I guess. Those are the only two ways you can do a sequel to a love story. Either
our love is being challenged or we need to share our love with the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And then but she's also in another love triangle with her best friend and boyfriend, because Noah, her boyfriend, wants her to join him in Harvard. Even though I feel like most people who don't on a whim really go to Harvard, but
I wonder what college I should go to. I haven't really decided. I don't know. I guess I'll try Harvard.
Like, why not? Just take a gamble. Check it out.
Yeah.
Dip a toe in the Ivy Leagues. But then she's always planned to go to college with her best friend, Lee. I always just want to call him F the Prom, but I don't really want to talk about F the Prom right now.
Oh, right.
That is... I'll just move along. But then, they've always planned to go to Berkeley together, which is also that's also a good school you plan to go to, so that makes sense. But they have these rules from the first movie, if you don't know. They have this, list, this whole handbook, this manual to being friends, and Rule 16 is always go to your best friend's college.
That's a dumb rule.
They have lots of rules that are... I mean, they made it when they were children, and I really hoped that at the end of this movie, they would be like, you know what? We made these rules when we were children. Clearly, now that we're older, we see it's not this cut and dry.
Right.
They don't.
Oh.
But okay, so let's go to the best friends thing, because his arc is something. So he got a girlfriend the last movie, and she's been super nice because, like I said, these are really, really codependent friends. Like, they go everywhere together. Which is, I will say, in both movies, when it's just the two of them being dumb, being best friends, I like it a lot. I think it's really cute. Like, I think some people might be like, they are not the best actors or whatever, but I genuinely think that they're very cute on screen together.
They have good chemistry.
Yeah, I would buy that they're friends. And I think it's really fun just seeing them do ridiculous nothing together. Anyway, so in the last movie, her and Noah broke up for a bit, so she went with them to prom. And I remembered watching the first movie, and I was like, that's really weird, but okay. Not super weird, but it's like they just got together, and it was kind of clear that she was like excited to go to prom with her boyfriend. And now she's just and he didn't really consult her. He just said, of course you're going with us to prom. So I was like, yeah. So he didn't really talk to his girlfriend about that. So it's not that like people don't go in groups to prom. It was just kind of like, it didn't seem like she was that cool with it. And it turns out she was not that cool with it. Her main thing is she like almost breaks up with him once, and then she does break up with him again later because it always feels like she's the third wheel in her relationship.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. And so finally, she's like, look, I've been really patient, and I know that she's lonely because Noah's in Harvard. I totally get that, and I do like her, but I do need you to myself sometimes.
That's also fair. That's fair and, like, mature.
Yeah. And also, her breaking point, which I will include, was that, they were hanging out because they need to do this DDR freestyle competition so that Joey can get money for college. Joey King. And they were practicing, but it ran long, and he ended up blowing off his girlfriend for a movie they were going to go to together. She waited outside the theater for 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And, like, I was kind of confused because he didn't seem to, like, say, like, oh, no, look at all these missed calls or anything, which I guess we can assume that she called, but it kind of just sounds like she waited 45 minutes, then went home and was sad.
Yeah.
And, like, because he was like, I'm sorry, like, Joey was, like, taking too long, I was like, yeah, no, so she gets mad about that. But also, you should have called, because what if he just fell asleep?
Or was, like, in an accident.
Or something. Like, I mean, I guess at this point we could also assume that, like, she knows if he's not with me, he's with her.
Yeah, maybe.
But, you know, I do like, though, that she never is, like, jealous, like, Joey King is a romantic threat. Like, she knows they're just besties, but she's like... So I like that, too.
It's
nice. Not like a whole...
different, but maybe not as realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it really just seems like a matter of, like, Lee needs to just manage his time better.
Yeah.
But then she's like, you need to talk to her. And he's like, okay. He doesn't talk to her.
Oh, good.
He doesn't at all. His plan is it's not that he senses the love triangle brewing, but this other contender, Marco, is really, really good at DDR. So he's like, okay, I'll just fake an injury, and then he'll help her at practice, and then she'll have someone else to be with. And then I can hang out with Rachel.
Why does he assume that this other person is just going to help her when she loses his part? her partner.
Well, he talks to both of them because they've had some friction because, I'm going to get into their romance later, but they have a teasing rivalry going on, sort of, where they just nag each other and they compete a lot, but they do happen to, at one point, find out that he's good at DDR.
Okay.
Which I'll get into later. But what's his face? Lee, he goes to them and is like, hey, you should help Joey King with the thing. And he was like, she really wants me to? And he's like, of course she does. And then he goes to Joey and is like, he really wants to help you. He does. And they do that thing. Some of this movie really is cute, I swear. But then, so then he doesn't tell Joey King to, like, give us some time in our relationship. And this, they really did this poor girl dirty. They were earlier going shopping for costumes for the Halloween dance. And they decided, and this is the montage of Joey King being way too much in their relationship. This is kind of like where but they go shopping for Halloween costumes and they settle on being s'mores. So Rachel is going to be the marshmallow and Joey King and Lee are going to be the graham crackers.
That's not a s'more.
That's not a s'more?
Marshmallow and graham cracker?
I think there was, like, chocolate on them, too.
Okay.
And a little on her.
Okay.
But, like, they sandwich her in.
Fine, I'll allow
it. Thank you. But then the big dance shows up, and she comes out of her car in a marshmallow. They changed their mind and decided to be Ghostbusters.
Oh my God.
And when they see her come out of the car, Joey King is like, you forgot to tell her? And he's like, oh my gosh, I totally spaced. And then he goes to his girlfriend and is like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, it's fine, but it's clearly not fine. But
it's not. It's not.
It's not. Like, I'm kidding, but I totally am not okay with that. Especially because now, like, it was already a dumb costume. But the fact that, like, we were all in it together, like, the group made it okay.
Right. And it was like, yeah, like they're all in on the joke kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's a fun bonding exercise, but now it's just, you're a weirdo who showed up to a dance as a marshmallow. So then, like, throughout the dance, she's just withdrawing more and more. She goes to, like, sit on a couch or something, and she's just watching them ghost busted up and just having the time of their lives.
Wow, what a good boyfriend.
He's a keeper. And he just sort of, and then she just snaps at Joey. She blames her. She's like, because she believes that Lee talked to her.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's like, after everything that happened, you really just couldn't give us a little bit of space. You just had to do this too. Like, and she just kind of goes off on her, and Joey's like, wait, what are you talking about? But she doesn't mention that, like, because Lee talked to you.
Right.
She's just like, you couldn't, like, you're trying to sabotage us, basically. And so she leaves, and then Joey's like, why is she so mad at me? Oh, well, I'll work it out later. Fast forward to Thanksgiving, and Rachel's still mad at her, and Joey's like, hey, can we just, like, talk and clear the air? Because, like, I don't know what's going on. And she's like, I really can't with you right now. But at this point in the story, because, of course, Joey did something else, and Lee is mad at her for that. So when she's like, I need to talk to Rachel so we can work this out, and he's like, I'm mad at you too.
Okay. For
something else. And she's like, what? So now we're at this Thanksgiving dinner. Noah's there. He's got his own drama. We'll get to that later. But finally, Joey's like, Noah's mad at me. Lee's mad at me. And Rachel, I don't know why you're mad at me. And she's finally like, oh, you do know. Lee talked to you about, like, giving us space and you just couldn't do that. And she's like, then she looks at Lee like, Lee, you never told me. What is she talking about? And then this was kind of weird. Like, this felt kind of forced to me. But then after Joey King says that, Rachel still decides to believe Lee because reasons. Okay. And is like, Lee, she's like, Joey, stop lying. Lee, tell her.
Tell her
you told
her
already. And then he turns to her and he's like, I'm so sorry, I couldn't. And then she just leaves. And good. I was like, I was clapping. Like, thank you, Rachel. Please see yourself out of this awkward dinner. Then Joey, like, goes over, finally follows her, and, like, they talk about it and they clear the air. Because Rachel not only feels embarrassed because of how she's been feeling all this time, she's also like, you let me say all those awful things to and about her.
This is my favorite character.
She's really great. She's very emotionally intelligent. She says her feelings. She does her thing. Then Joey checks on Lee afterwards to see how he's doing. Of course, at the arcade. This is where we spend all our time. And he's like, and he's really sad about it. But then she's like, why didn't you just tell me about Rachel, like, wanting space? I would have understood. And he was like, and then he says this, which I was like, that's interesting. He was like, I know, I just didn't want to. I kind of just always want you around. But I couldn't tell Rachel that. And then the moral of the story is that you have to sometimes choose your partner over your best friend, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it was just a weird way to go about it, because, like, I don't know, I feel like we needed to explore a bit more, like, why do you just always want her around, and why don't you want to be alone with your girlfriend? To me, I feel like that means Rachel's not the one, but then the movie says, oh no, Rachel is the one.
Rachel is the one. He just has poor time management.
I guess, but it's just weird because anytime Noah wants to hang out with Joey, she just bails on. It's not like he had the same problem. But anyway, now let's go to this college deal. So on a whim, she's just like, oh, I've got to go to Harvard, but I always wanted to go to Berkeley. It's also weird, too, because Noah presents Harvard as, like, her fallback school. Like, he's like, he's like, don't tell me you're only applying to one college. And then she's like, well, we've always wanted to go to UC Berkeley. Which I kind of wonder, like, so I guess he didn't sign up for any, like, fallback schools either. That's not what they're called, but whatever.
I think you can call them that.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense to me. Yeah. So he didn't, but I just like the idea of, like, one of us getting in and one of us not getting a college education.
Yeah. Berkeley or nothing.
So she applies to some schools in Boston, and one of them is Harvard, like Boston University and Harvard, basically. And she talks to her counselor, who's like, oh, good, you're, like, on the soccer team, you got the dance club. Cool, you're doing things.
Hold on, I have to address, is the dance club just DDR?
Yeah, it's literally just,
that's not
they're
dance.
The only two members. Wow.
Also, he's planning to get a scholarship from Berkeley for DDR?
It's not, like, it's just a competition that she saw a poster, because her dad was like...
I thought it was like, we want you on our DDR team, and I was like, that's not a thing at Berkeley, for sure.
Oh, no.
Or anywhere, but, I mean...
Yeah.
Also, when does this movie take place? Because I feel like DDR is not, like, the hip thing that kids are doing nowadays.
When we get to this freestyle competition, it looks like it looks not like Dancing with the Stars. It looks like American Idol.
Oh my gosh.
It's, like, so elaborate.
DDR can be competitive, and there is stuff, not a lot in the United States that I know of. But also, I feel like it's not super popular with, like, Gen Z or whatever this movie is supposed to be. I guess Gen Z, right?
Yeah, because they're like, yeah, they're seniors now. So, I guess DDR was just at the arcade when they were kids and they just sort of fell into it. But her dad is like, she was telling her dad, like, so I want to go to Harvard, potentially. And this is interesting because he's like, oh, okay, but like, I don't think I can afford that by myself. You know, I have to save for your brother's college too. And she's like, oh, right. Which I thought was just kind of funny. Like, oh, yeah, he might want to go to college too. That kid. Who really, we see him like twice. So it's not like
And apparently they don't remember him.
Yeah, nobody does. So he's like, you know, it'll take probably like student loans, my help, and like also your help. Which I thought was like, oh, okay, there's going to be a cute thing. She gets like a summer job or something. No, she sees this poster for a DDR competition. So
it's like, I don't need to work. I can just win this competition.
Yeah, I'll win this in my sleep. Then, what was the next? Oh, the other thing the counselor tells her. So she's got money, check. I'm going to win this. I can go to school. No problem. Then she talks to her counselor and he's like, okay, but like a lot of these schools that you want to go to, they're really going to pay attention to your personal essay. So the rest of the movie is her personal essay.
Oh boy.
Which honestly I think is good, but it makes me wonder, was the narration in the first movie also part of her personal essay?
They retconned the narration.
Yeah, it's weird because it like starts with, yeah, it's weird because it's the exact same format, but then like halfway through it's like, so where will I be in 5 years? Here. Like that whole deal. But oh my gosh. So that's kind of her college thing. It's just, will I get into Harvard or Berkeley, and do I go stick with my best friend, or do I choose my boyfriend? Because being away from Noah has been a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Now we can go into the big tamale of the movie, which is this love triangle. The way it starts. So Noah goes away to college, and Joey's like, okay, well, I don't want to come off as a clingy girlfriend, so I'm just going to give him his space. So, and a lot of people in school keep coming up to her like, I'm so sorry you guys broke up, and they all assume that he dumped her to go to Harvard, so he can just go be the hot guy there, like he was in high school.
Because that's how college works.
He's just going to be the big man on campus and date everybody and dump his girlfriend. Yep. But that's not the case. But she's just been giving him these like 2-word answers. Like she contemplated sending him like a naughty picture, but she chickened out. And then she's just like, I'm being weird, so I'm just going to like kind of take a step back. He calls the school, claims to be her father, and that there's an emergency. So in the middle of class, they like get her like, you need to talk to your father on the phone. And then he's just like, why haven't you been texting me? Like, just 2-word answers? Are you breaking up with me? What's going on?
Is this really the time for that?
Like,
in the middle of class?
He says that this is the only way he knew he could get a hold of her.
He could call her. Has he tried calling her cell phone? Instead of just texting?
It didn't.
He does know that cell phones can call people, right?
They're so weird. It's like we either Skype or we text. At one point...
Maybe they don't know. Maybe they're like, only landlines.
Yeah, it's... Ugh. At one point, she does call, but then someone else answers his phone, and I'm like, oh, see, this is why we don't call people, I guess.
Oh, that's why.
Goes horribly wrong. But then now we get to meet this new guy. So we hear a little bit, like there's some chatter at school about this hot new guy. Leave and says, people are saying he's hotter than my brother.
What? No way.
It's impossible. But I will say, like, tall, buff, chiseled jawline.
I have to say that,
like,
This is a weird thing that high school movies do, and Wattpad stories, I guess, where, like, they portray high school like there's one really hot guy, and that's it. And he's the talk of the town. And then someone new comes in, and it's like, oh my gosh, he's even hotter than this other. I'm like, why? I don't understand that. I feel like people are like, these are the hot people, and they don't, like, compare them to each other. Like, wow, this guy's really hot, but this guy is even hotter.
Yeah, it's like
they're just all attractive.
No, I think it's definitely like a ranking. They're always bracketeering the hot guys against each other.
Oh, there you go.
And Graduation is just the Hunger Games with the hot guys. Or Highlander, I think is better. But so she's like in disbelief, and this girl, she's like, and she has like a lot of piercings and is goth, and like they bring in a lot of characters that I feel like they're trying to like make a statement about, but like they're just kind of people and they're just there, and it's like, okay, she just has piercings. That's kind of whatever. I guess. So she's like, hey, I found this video's going around of the new guy working out, and then Joey King is like, what? He's not that cute, but then she sees him, and then she goes on like a 3-minute rant about how this guy is a snack and a half. And she put her, why they were in this room, I don't know, but she puts her backpack down on like the sound booth, so now the whole school can hear her.
Who's she talking to?
This random goth girl.
Okay.
In some room with the PA system in it. I don't know why either of them are there.
Okay.
Like, I'm trying to think of, like, little things that she said in this. Like, she was like, he's a snack. Maybe he's the whole meal. Maybe he's 5 courses. He could just bench me and you together. And, like, call me an earthquake, because I am shook right now. Like, she keeps going.
This goes off.
I think my favorite thing she says is like, I'm not really a butt person, but like I can see why people are now. I don't know whether to smack it, bite it, or something.
Ew.
There's some third thing. Or maybe all 3. And I was just
That's why. What's the goth girl's reaction while she
says like, oh yeah, definitely. Like, she clearly is entertained, and she wants to see how long this will go, which I think maybe Joey's character is misinterpreting that as like, oh wow, like I'm really god, or like I'm gonna just keep this bit going. But like, it's not said, so it could just be that she just really found him like that hot, she just had to. So then, for like 3 seconds, she wins the nickname Get It Girl.
For 3 seconds.
Like, after this scene of her hanging her head in shame, it does not come up again. No one even no one mentions it at all. But he... So then she's, like, hanging her head in shame, and Rachel and Lee are, like, holding hands at the locker at this point, and they're like, hey, it's okay. People are gonna forget about it. And she's like, people are literally calling me Get It Girl, but, like, honestly, he can get it.
This is why you have that nickname. You need to stop.
And then, then Rachel and Lee make a face, and then she makes a face, because guess who's behind her?
Oh, no.
Also, this is the weirdest part about that whole thing. While this thing's going on in the PA system, at one point, she's like, what's his name again? And everyone we see all the people listening, and they start going, Marco, Marco, Marco. And some people are, like, actually in class with Marco, so they're, like, whooping and hollering for him.
What?
And, like,
that's so weird.
It's
why are high school movies like this?
I don't know. It's weird that they're doing it in the room with him, but that at least makes a little bit more sense to me than, like, just being in, like, your geometry class, neither of these people are in it, and you're just like, yeah, Marco, he's hot. This girl really thinks he's hot.
Oh my gosh. That's So bizarre.
So he comes basically to just tell her, like, he's not bothered by her objectifying him for several minutes in front of the whole school. And he didn't hear anything, so, like, don't be embarrassed. And she's like, yeah, like, I'm not embarrassed because, like you said, you didn't hear anything. And they have, like, this weird interaction.
Okay.
And I'm like, as far as meet cutes go, that's horrifying, and you two never need to speak again, but okay.
Yeah, you need to transfer schools.
She does joke about that, but I'm like, no, seriously, you should.
Yeah.
You need a new name. But
especially, like, imagine that. I'm sure that her hot boyfriend at college still has friends in high school.
Yeah.
Imagine that getting back to him. Oof.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, one, I can't imagine, like, I'll be honest, I can't imagine finding someone that attractive that I go on, like, that much of a rant. Like, it's so, like, she gets so creative. Like, she, like, gets poetic almost in how hot she finds this guy. And she's not that close with this girl. It's very weird that she did it at all. But getting back to Noah, I don't even know what I would think if I was Noah. Like, I wouldn't like it. I know that much. I wouldn't like it.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know. It's because it's like, it's fun. Like, I don't. This is gonna sound weird. People are always, like, oh, well, you can't find anyone else attractive if you're dating, or they go to the other extreme where it's like, well, I'm allowed to find people attractive, and I can stare at people that are attractive, which, like, yeah, maybe like a glance, but not like, ooh, check that girl out.
Yeah,
I'm taken, but I'd get some of that. Like, that's the same. It's that to an extreme, and it's like, you're pushing your. It's like emotional cheating.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because it's one thing to be, like, a celebrity on TV is hot, because it's like, what are the chances of, like, they're not on the table, really? Like,
right. It's just, like, a fun...
It's not great, yeah, like, but it's kind of weird if you get jealous, but, like, Marco's right there. So, that's...
And it was such a long rant. It wasn't just like, yummy. It's so long. And she was starting to get explicit too, like the thing she said about his butt, like, yikes.
Yeah, and like the principal just comes in and he kind of like shakes his head at her like, ugh, it's only been like a day at school and you're already in trouble. Because in the first movie, although as far as this one was actually her fault, she deserves to get in trouble for this. Well, in the first movie, her skirt is still at the cleaners. And then she's like, oh man, I only have my backups. And so it's this short skirt that she no longer fits into, really. So it's really short. You can kind of see her butt. And everyone comments on it. And this one guy, Tuppen, who's now become best boy of this movie, surprisingly. But we'll mention him briefly as the movie does. But he sees her and he grabs her butt. And then Noah beats him up. And then they all go to the principal's office. But I'm like, yeah, okay, like, I get, like, there's a dress code, but, like, that's so...
You're just victim blaming.
Yeah, like, I don't really get why dress codes exist, like, because, like...
It's the argument that dress codes are sexist, which, to an extent, they can be, especially in some schools. But, yeah. It's basically victim blaming. Yeah, I mean, because no matter what, I think it's normal to just not grope people. Like, right? You don't, especially because they weren't really close at all. It was weird. What do you mean, especially? That's not an especially. That's... You could have just ended with, it's not normal to grope people. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to establish, like, how absurd it is that he groped her at all. Because he did not really know her. Like, So, see, that's going back to, like, people... The argument against a lot of dress codes is that, oh, if girls wear clothing that's too revealing, boys won't be able to control themselves.
I think...
Which is insulting to both sides.
I feel like it's a little bit more insulting to boys, because, like, on the girls' end, it's, like, rude, like, I should be able to do what I want, but on the boys' side, it's like, oh, I'm apparently a feral beast who can't control my loins.
Yes.
Okay, so back to this movie. So they had that weird encounter. Joey and Lee, they're at the arcade where they always go, and they notice something horrifying. Their Dance Dance Revolution high score has been ruined. They're now in the number 2 spot. So they gotta get a bunch of quarters and bring it back up.
Is this an old-fashioned arcade? Because I don't know any arcades that use quarters or tokens anymore, except for in, like, movie theaters, maybe.
No, I mean, it looks really bright and colorful. It could very well, like, but it does look like it's its own...
All arcades are bright and colorful.
I mean, I don't know. I've seen arcades that are kind of, like, look dark inside with, like, glowy lights everywhere.
Sketchy arcades you're going to.
Well, this one's like, it looks like it's like a beachside one, so I could see it like existing for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But they're like, we're gonna get a lot of orders and we're gonna bring back our score. And then a little later they go again. And, well, okay, before that. Then there's like this school competition thing. I think it's like a senior activity. I don't really remember what exactly this event was, but Joey King is the team captain and this Marco guy is the other team captain. And so they're gonna like pick their people and they're doing that thing, and they have this tug of war, and like, so I thought we were done with like the weird objectifying stuff, but we're not.
Of course not. That's what Wattpad stories are.
That's true, but maybe I might be using the wrong word. If you could find a better name for what this is, please do tell me. Okay, so they're playing tug of war, and they're really like, they're both evenly matched on both sides. So Marco gets an idea. So he tells Tuppen, the buff guy behind him, like, take your shirt off. So he takes his shirt off and grabs the rope.
I just want to interject real quick. I really like the name Tuppen for, like, a big guy, because it sounds like this, like, little sprightly name.
Yeah. And
Tuppen.
I think there might have been more letters. I think it's from his last name, but they might have just, like, cut it down to Tuppen. I really like it, because it also doesn't help that he has, like, a big smile all the time. Like, he's a very happy best boy. Like, in the first movie, he's the one who groped her, but in this movie, he's just, like, living an unproblematic life. Yeah, he really did. So, then, Marco takes his shirt off, and then it's all over, because then Joey's like, no, don't get distracted, but all the girls let go, because, oh boy, body!
See, okay, so at least they went the other way, with not being able to control yourself, I guess.
I guess it's just weird because, like, I understand, like, the roots of the idea, like, oh, teenagers just can't control themselves.
Because their hormones are running rampant.
Yeah, and I get all that, but, like, that's not human. That's so weird.
I don't know. Maybe we ran in the wrong circles.
You think?
Like, have you seen how girls, young teens, act with, like, their K-pop stars?
Yeah, and
it's kind of weird.
That's weird. And, like, I even remember, like, with my friends, like, hearing, like, you know, like, on BuzzFeed, they have the series Thirst Tweets, where it's just, like, the craziest stuff. But there is, like, the barrier of, like, you're saying this stuff to a celebrity.
Right.
And
that's true.
But it's just, like, but it's really weird, like, these are guys you go to school with every day, and also, like, we've seen them, like, in other sports events, so, like, they kind of have they've had their tops off before.
I also don't know, this is a trope, in high school movies and stories. It's like, he was the hottest guy in school, and everybody knew it. And I'm like, I don't remember there being even several guys that the whole school unanimously was like, he's hot. There was, like, maybe a few people, but not like, ooh, it's, I don't know.
No, I totally agree, because, like, especially because, like, first of all, people have preferences, and, like...
And there's, like, conventional, I don't know what I'm trying to say, conventional beauty.
Mm-hmm.
But even that only goes so far.
Yeah, because, like, you know, it is weird, too, like, in, like, if we're going to use, like, these generic, weird high school tropey high schools that don't really exist, in your narrative, there are, like, these are where the jocks who only talk to the jocks. These are the nerds, and these are the emo kids and stuff. Like, there are all these cliques, and, like, if you're in that clique, you're not really gonna find the jocks hot, right? If you're in the emo group, you're gonna find, like, the emo guy to be the hottest guy in school kind of thing. Now, I would like a movie where it's like, you're the hottest guy from this clique, you're the hottest guy from that clique, you're the hottest guy from this clique, and then, like, they all form, like, this alliance.
Oh, that would be cool.
I don't know to what end.
The Hot Man Alliance.
Just...
Boy, sorry, they're in high school.
But anyway, so then they do this competition. Then there's this other one where it's a maze or race kind of thing, where this is so expensive. If you have to climb up a ladder, like kind of like they do in army training kind of thing,
like rope ladders.
Yeah, rope ladders, and they're doing that, and she's climbing to the top, and then he beat her, and he's like, you need a hand? And she's like, from you, no. And he's like, okay, see you at the finish line. And then he leaves, and he goes to win, and then she gets over, and she falls into this big pool of mud.
Okay.
And I'm like, I can't describe the scope enough of just, like, I was like, I guess it is a rich school, though, so I guess that's fine. I don't know. But...
These are assumed to be not permanent structures, right? Temporary structures.
I think.
Do we know?
I think so. I couldn't really tell. Like, it looked like hard wood and stuff was involved. So, like, people built a structure. It didn't look like... I don't know. I feel like the most obstacle course, it looks like the thing where it's like that party groups come in an afternoon, they set it up really quick, and then they take it down and go home. But this looked like this...
But they did have a mud pit.
They had 2 mud pits, at least.
Okay.
So, this seemed like it at least put, like, some days to put together.
Alright.
Oh, actually, I guess 3, because the tug of war looked like it was in a totally different part than the race mud pits. Anyway.
Alright.
So there's that. So, like, they have this competition brewing. Now, Joey and Lee are back at the arcade, and Lee is like, come on, we gotta ask Marco to be in the kissing booth. Because, like, we had my brother, who was the hottest guy last time, which is, it's weird that he thinks, like, he's just kind of on board with his brother being hot now. Because that was pretty much his main source of insecurity in the last movie.
Also, that's weird, even that he's not just, like, on board with his brother being hot, but, like, he's the one saying, "Aw, man, my brother is hot, and we don't have him anymore."
Yeah, that's weird. I guess I'm more looking at the aspect of, like, people in school last year, and kind of still this year, refer to him as Other Flynn.
Okay.
Like, there's Hot Flynn, and then his little brother's Other Flynn. So, that's not great. But anyway, they're at the arcade, and they see Marco, and so Lee's like, come on, ask him. And then she's like, oh, look, fine. So, you want to be in the kissing booth? And he's like, no.
Good for him.
And then she's like, come on, and why not? Now she's like, how dare you not want to be in this thing that I didn't want you to be a part of? And he's like, I got things to do, basically. And she's like, well...
I don't want mono.
That's nobody's mind in this movie.
Yeah, it should be. That should be the third movie.
Ooh. But then finally he's like, okay, I'll play you for it. And she's like, okay, fine. If I win, you have to be in the kissing booth. And if you win, what do you want? And he's like, you're going to babysit my sister for 4 hours for free. And I'm like,
okay, so either you come work for us and get paid, I guess. I don't remember how the kissing booth works.
I think it's free.
Basically, you get to kiss a lot of girls. Or I do free labor for you.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? Because, like, I don't really mind kids and it's only a couple hours. I was just kind of thinking, like, that's kind of, like, really nice. Like, you get to hang out with a cool kid for a couple hours, or I have to kiss a bunch of girls that I might not want to. Like, he already said he wasn't interested in the kissing booth, so the idea of kissing a lot of girls isn't appealing to him. But so then they play, and then she's like, okay, fine, you pick what we do. And he's like, okay. And then he picks Dance Dance Revolution. So Joey and Lee are like, oh, like, they try to fake it, like, oh, wow, like, you drive a hard bargain, but okay. But really,
they're gonna hustle him.
They're trying to hustle him, right. And then they do it, and then they keep up, and then Lee's watching, and he's like, what's your last name, Marco? And he's like, Pena. And then Joey kind of pauses, like she's trying to keep up with Dancy, but she kind of makes a little bit of a face, and he turns to her and he's like, my middle name's Valentine. And then
alright, that's pretty good.
And then she's like, no, you're MVP. But of course she still wins anyway. See, notice how I haven't talked about Noah at all right now. Because right now, we're on the, like, we have a really cute relationship going right now where, like, he kind of gives her the business, but, like, he's engaging in her interests. He's, like, playing DDR with her. I was going to say DDD. Dance.
King DDD.
But, like, in the opening montage, she's like, so a lot's happened over the summer. I got to hang out with Noah, but it was pretty much just them canoodling in different locations, like, even over a board game. And it was like, okay. So I like...
See, that's what they want you to do. They want you to like it so that you get invested in the love triangle.
Yeah. But it was also the kind of thing, too, where I was also couldn't help but compare because after she wins, her and Lee do a little dance, and he has this amused smile at both of them. And part of me was thinking, like, okay, I know this is obviously never going to happen, but I already have seen that Rachel doesn't really like their friendship. But, like, Marco enjoys their friendship. He likes it. He encourages it. Maybe they just need Marco in their dynamic. Maybe he can just date both of them because they can't be apart.
I was gonna say, so you're saying that Marco needs to date Lee?
Yeah, he needs to date both of them because they need someone who can accept their friendship.
Okay.
But anyway, he just leaves with this amused smile, and I was like, that was like such a sweet interaction. I genuinely really do like their friendship a lot when it's just that, when they don't add these unnecessary fights and ridiculous not knowing how to talk to somebody who apparently you tell everything to. Stuff. But anyway, so then the competition, her and Lee are practicing for it, and then Lee fakes an injury. He pretends to do his ankle. And I talked about that, how she gets him on board.
Right.
And so now they're practicing together, and it's going pretty good. She's really focused on the footwork and stuff because she's really stressed about everything that's going on in her personal life, which...
All DDR is footwork.
But this is a freestyle competition. So
that doesn't make any sense.
He's like, well, I don't know how DDR works. I really do want to say DDD.
Like, some of the best DDR players don't even dance. I mean, DDR isn't even really dancing as it is, but the rails that are on the back of the dance pads, they lean on those so that they can take the weight off of their feet and they can move their feet faster. Because when you get into the really difficult songs and like the harder modes, like heavy and expert and above, the like you don't have time to do any actual dancing because the footwork is so fast. That's
really interesting, because for this they have like this sheet that like the competition passed out to everybody of like, these are the steps, which I was kind of wondering, like, heck? It's like these are the orders, so like you make your choreography around these steps, so you have to like hit like up, down, left in whatever sequence they have. And I was wondering,
this
like,
is written by someone who's never played DDR.
Okay, because I was like, I played it like once at an arcade, and I was like, well, I'm not good at this. Moved along.
It was my brother's favorite game for like a few years, and we had the home version of it, and 2 home dance pads, and we played it and still play it every time we go to the arcade. So yeah. And that's the only way. I mean, because the only thing that matters is stepping on the arrows in terms of your score. So, in order to get a high score, choreography doesn't matter.
Well, they have, in the end, when we go to the actual thing, there are like 4 judges watching. So I think the choreography is for them, but you still have to like...
This is a dumb DDR competition. I hate it.
Okay. So they're practicing, and she's really focused on the footwork. And then he's like, hey, why did you start doing this? And she's like, because me and Lee thought it was fun. And he's like, right, so just let it go. And so she lets it go, and then the USD can really begin.
Wow, what good advice.
But now she's having trouble with Noah, because they were on a Skype call, and he had a bunch of guys over. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, they came early, but I gotta go. But before he clicks off, this beautiful woman enters the room, and she's got an accent, I think British accent. And she's like, oh, Noah, hello. And Noah's only got a towel on because he was still getting ready. And, like, they have a banter, so Joey is very, very immediately threatened. She goes to Boston to meet with him and spend the time with him. And she only gets more threatened by Chloe, which I will say, because I know how this ends, it's so dumb what was supposed to happen, because they straight up lied to the audience, because they keep there's this picture that she sees on Instagram when she's looking at them where it's like the group of friends, but this girl is very clearly like just looking at Noah. So it's like they're doing all these things to make it very clear, like, yeah, she's the one to worry about. But I'll get into what it turns out to be later. Oh my gosh. So she gets more threatened, but then when she's packing up to go back home from her trip to Boston, she sees an earring under the bed. And she's like, so she keeps it. And then she tries to ask...
Except you know that there was a lady there. Earrings don't just fall off during sex.
Well, I guess so, but she was like, why would she ever do your bed? And I was like, he lives in a dorm. It's not like super big. Also, I could totally see people just sitting on the bed.
Have you ever lost an earring? It's not hard for it to like bounce under the bed or like roll.
Yeah, and this was like one of the dangly ones. Like kind of have like those long backs, and those slip out like easily.
Really easily.
But she finds this earring, and then she just leaves. And then he's like, hey, like, I'm gonna take you. And she's like, no, you don't need to do anything. Look at your phone. That's what you can do. Because she looked at these texts, and, like, they had this long text chain going, and it's, like, it's a little bit flirty, like, oh, you're ugly, like, haha, or no, you're not, or, I don't know, just dumb.
Yeah, that sounds flirty.
You're ugly.
You're ugly.
Well, she keeps calling him ugly, like, to his face, but it's said in, like, a playful way, like, obviously you're not, right. We know you're not really ugly, but I just call you ugly. So she leaves, and she's all sad about that, and then he's like, we need to talk, and we need to have, like, a call, and she's like, okay. And then she's like, I'm just, like, kind of insecure about you and college girls. And he's like, I told you didn't have to worry about Chloe. And then she's like, why do you think I meant her? In her head. She didn't say that to him. But I was like, you're the only girl you've seen him interact with is Chloe. Why wouldn't... that's not like him being guilty and bringing her up out of nowhere. You don't know any other friends of his. It doesn't really seem like... He was even talking about earlier, like, how college is kind of different. Like, he's not the big man on campus anymore. So it seems like he just kind of has the group of friends that she met and went to dinner with, which is mostly guys and this one girl. But, so there's that. So she goes, and then so her and Noah start talking less and less, because at this point it's kind of like, oh, they're just, like, avoiding the inevitable breakup talk.
Okay.
And during this time, her and Marco get closer and closer. I will say, though, so Marco, he is a man of many talents. He's on sports teams, and he has a guitar that he takes everywhere, and
everybody loves that guy.
Mm-hmm. And, well, he actually has a band. Like, he's been performing, like, he performed at the Halloween dance. He performed on the boardwalk with some guys. He did a Spanish cover of That's What I Like About You. And I was like, that's actually pretty... All of it has, like, this, like, kind of, like, 60s beach movie vibe to it that I was like, really? Like, I was like, I miss this. I'm gonna go watch Teen Beach Movie again, I guess.
You're not even gonna watch an actual 60s beach movie. You're just gonna watch Teen Beach Movie.
Because, yeah, because I couldn't think of a real one. But anyway... At this point, she's like, they're rehearsing, and, like, she kind of cries a little bit, so he's like, come on, let's go for a walk, and the arcade's close to the beach. But I'm like, honestly, I feel like this is cheating. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but this seems just, like, way too romantic to not be cheating. So...
It's at least emotional cheating.
Yeah.
And she hasn't told him that she has a boyfriend, right?
I believe he knows because... Yeah, no, she knows because, like, while they're on the beach, she, like, tells him, like, you know, he went to college and it's hard, and, like, I feel like I'm holding on so tight, but it's still slipping through my fingers, and, like, I don't know...
Except, are you, though? Because you were the one that was like, I just want to give him some space. I don't want to hold on too tight.
Yeah,
So are you... Really?
It's her action, like, but then he's like, I totally get that. And then he whips out his guitar. The sun is setting. He's singing this really, like, beautiful little number to her. And she's just watching him, and they're both being beautiful together. And I'm like, this is legit an affair.
This is just a date now.
Like, because, like, I guess it's like, oh, we just played a song to make her feel better. And I was like, no.
But if you think, like, would you do that with someone who is just your friend?
Yeah.
Probably not.
It doesn't seem like it at all to me. Oh my gosh, Google, no one is talking to you.
I turned it on. I did it. I'm Zax now.
It's so weird. I don't even know what triggers it. Sometimes it's not even the word okay.
No, that happens to me all the time.
It's like... just really nosy. But anyway, so they basically start dating, even though they're not dating. And then this peaks at the dance competition, where it's the day before Thanksgiving, and they do their dance, and like they do flips and spins, and at one point he dips her, and she puts her hand on one of the arrows, like. I'm glad we're mentioning this footwork. It was wild, especially because we've been watching them practice, and at one point it seemed like we saw them practice basically the whole thing. So these stunts came out of nowhere for me.
It was all improv.
You know
They're
what?
making that.
I think you might be right, because when he does the thing, she makes a face like, I didn't know he was going to do that. And so then he looks at her, and so then she jumps and does this wild, like, spin where she's like a pizza.
That's not where I thought you were going.
So then it ends, and like with a final dip, and everyone's just losing their minds. Like, these are dancers. This is why we come here every year. Kind of cheers. And then they're looking at each other, and they were just dancing, so they're panting, and then she dives in and kisses him, which was
okay. That's straight up cheating. If before we were like, oh, maybe it was emotional cheating, it was like a date. This is just straight up cheating.
Yeah. So then
100%.
Yeah. So then they get announced as the winner. And the lights, somehow she sees that in the audience Noah is there. And she's like, oh, and he gets up and he leaves. And this is kind of funny. She gets up to go after him, but like they just announced that she won. And there's like, he doesn't look like a security guard, but there's just this man in a suit who straight up just stops her and guides her back onto the stage. And I was like,
oh.
You're trapped. You need to finish this.
It was just the usher. He was like, no, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah, I think that's what it was supposed to be.
Is up there.
He's just being helpful. So now she's like, so then she runs out, and then Marco, who has been falling for her immediately, because every time they interact, he always like smiles to himself and looks back at her. Which like isn't surprising. Like, he's not attached to anybody. And they've been spending a lot of time together.
Which, okay, here's another thing that just dawned on me, which maybe I should have mentioned it earlier, but this is another very teen movie, Wattpad-y, teen story thing to do, teen romance. So she's like just a normal girl. It's not like, oh, she's the hot one in the school. She's just meek and normal, right?
She's supposed to be
the two hottest guys in the school. Like, I don't know. That's something that bothers me, because I'm like, one, sure, fine, whatever, that's okay. They don't always have to go for the most attractive ones, whatever. But both of them, really.
It's like, yeah, especially because, like, it's not like, in some Wattpad stories, it kind of makes sense, because it's like, she grew up with these two guys, and they just happen to grow up to be the two hottest guys in school, but, like, they've always been in love with her. Right. Kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, you know, like, they can't help that. They've known her a long time, fine. But, like, in this case, it's Marco is new this year. He's a new guy. And, like, he had no one else had a shot with him. Not that they deserve a shot or anything, but, like, he doesn't even talk to anybody but this girl. So, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
That's something that bothers me in a lot of teen romance movies, just because it's like, sure, I mean, in the hot guys don't always have to go with, like, the attractive and popular girls, but what is making this particular girl so special?
Yeah,
that she's getting, like, all of the attractive guys, you know?
Yeah, I think it's one of those, like, not like other girls kind of deals, because she's silly. Yeah. She does DDR and she plays video games, but, like, I don't know, it's weird, because, like, all these, like, movies and books and Wattpad stories, it's like, they really want this girl to be, like, so normal. And it's like, but, like, can't there just be a girl where there just, like, is something special about her? Like, yeah, something that she brings to the table?
Like, really good interpersonal skills. Yeah. That would be a reason for these two people to be attracted to her.
Yeah. But like, there's some people, like, yeah. So anyway, then he runs out after her, and he's like, hey, wait, like, you can't, like, we have to talk about this. And she's like, I just can't right now. So she runs away. And now it's Thanksgiving dinner, which I mentioned before. But this time we'll forget about what happened with Rachel. We're going to focus on what happens with the Flynn brothers. And since the first movie, Joey is not a person to them. She is this doll that they both want to play with, and they both want all to themselves. Because he's... Flea is like, you're the better twin. Like, everyone likes you more. You're hotter than me. You're stronger than me. You're cooler than me. Joey is my friend. She's the only thing I have that you don't have. Like, he says that verbatim in the movie. Which, I do understand the feelings. It's just a weird thing to say out loud.
Yeah. I guess at least he's being honest.
Yeah. So that's fine. Now they're at dinner, and Lee is mad because he found out that she's applying to Harvard to be with him. And he's like, so once again, you're choosing my brother over me. So I'm mad at you. And then he says something like, and also, Noah brought Chloe to Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So Lee's like really salty, and he's like, so Boston sucks, right, Chloe? And then Chloe's like, I don't know how to answer that. So I got a second favorite character of the movie right now. And then they do that thing where like they're clearly talking about their own mess, but to the whole table, and nobody knows what's going on.
Like they're subtweeting.
Yeah, and then Noah like says something to the effect of, yeah, lying is really terrible. And then Joey looks at him and she's like, you do not want to go there right now. And then Rachel, the whole thing with Rachel happens, so she runs out, and so then Lee runs after her and they have their little talk. And then Molly Ringwald's like, okay, that was awkward. Well, let's talk about what we're thankful for, shall we? Let's just kind of keep this moving. And then Noah's like, I'm thankful for my family, my new friend, and he puts his arm around Chloe. And Joey's bothered. And he looks right at her. My motorcycle. And then Molly Ringwald's like, okay, that was palpable.
Weird.
Oh, it was uncomfortable. Okay, Joey King, what are you thankful for this year? And she says, like, oh, my family. And then she starts crying, and she stands up, and she pulls something from her pocket, and she says, and I'm really glad I found Chloe's earring. And she gives it to Chloe. And Chloe's like, oh my gosh, where'd you find that? I've been looking for it. And she says, under Noah's bed. And then Molly Ringwald makes this face, which is just me for this whole movie. I will put it in muted real quick. Because like this is her son, and Joey King is her dead best friend's daughter, who she's basically treated as her own daughter. It's just a mess, this whole thing. And then Noah doesn't say anything to clarify. So then she's like, but you know what? I'm really glad that I found this before I uprooted my whole life. And so she gets up and she's sobbing. And this isn't really related to like the themes I'm touching on in this movie, but I just thought this was ridiculous. She's sobbing. You just had the most cringy, awkward Thanksgiving dinner I think anyone could possibly imagine, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you get up and you leave, where are you headed?
To check on her.
Okay, so she's leaving, she storms out, and her dad says, Elle! And she turns around to him, and he says, where are you going?
He doesn't, like, go after her?
No, he just is like, where are you going? And I'm like, if I'm sobbing, probably home. Probably away from here.
The bathroom, like, anywhere else.
But just like, where are you going? Where are you headed, bud? And he really
Things were going so well. Where are you going?
it was kind of interesting. Like, they sort of give Molly Ringwald some lines, and they give her dad a couple lines, but, like, during this dinner, they are all just, like, letting this go on. And here's something that I feel is also a little weird. Like I said earlier, Molly Ringwald definitely helps her sons keep Joey in their world. Um, like, she just, I don't know. It seems weird that she's, like, she just found out there was an earring under Noah's bed. So, like, and she made the natural conclusions there. Noah didn't say anything helpful. He just let it go, and then him and Chloe left. Okay. So, then Molly Ringwald's like, so, during the dinner, I heard a lot of talking, but not a lot of listening. So make sure when you talk to Noah, like, you listen to what he has to say.
She says that to...
She says that to Joey King.
Joey.
She doesn't tell her sons a thing.
Okay, that's... Alright. I feel like, as a mother, when this all was occurring at the dinner, because first of all, you really only have, control isn't the right word. I can't think of the word. Like,
authority, I guess?
Yeah, authority over your own children. Mm-hmm. So, you pull your kids aside during the dinner, as soon as this awkwardness starts. And you're like, listen, it is Thanksgiving. We're here to be thankful, not to have your weird drama. Leave that until after dinner, and then we can work it out. But you need to be polite to our guests right now.
Yeah,
you say that during the dinner, and then you work everything out later. You're there as the mediator for your dumb kids and your dumb friend's daughter.
Yeah, I definitely feel that this could have been handled so much better than it was. But she just tells Joey King that, and I'm like, that's... I don't know exactly why I feel it's like... Especially because, like, they're way more wealthy than Joey King's family is. So, while that doesn't necessarily play a factor into this, it doesn't help the fact that she's like... So you need to, like, make things right with my sons, basically. Right. So I don't, like, that's fine, I guess. So then we're at the pool hall or bar or wherever they are, and Noah and Chloe are playing pool. And he's like, so how did your earring end up under my bed? Like, it's hilarious that, like, we all hang out at your dorm all the time. I don't know why we need this. But here's the explanation.
Okay.
He went out of town at some point, and she had a fight with her ex-boyfriend, so she crashed at his place. And the earring must have fell out at some point then.
That's a dumb explanation.
And he's like, ugh. And she's like, I told you not to get mad. And then she has this talk with him, like, he's like, I can't believe she kissed another guy. I can't believe she thought there was something going on with us. And she's like, well, literally every time she broached the subject about being worried about me, you just said there was nothing to worry about. And didn't explain anything. So, and you have a past of, like, being with a lot of girls, and you're far away from her.
She said all these things to him?
Yeah.
Good for her. Yeah. Good character.
Mm-hmm. Chloe, yeah, she's very upfront, and, like, through the whole thing, she's just, like, just talk to her, basically. You know, she listens to Rule 0, which I respect. But, he's like, no. Finally, okay, so this all boils up to the kissing booth, which we spend a lot of time at the kissing booth. Like, we see everybody at the school kiss everybody, and this is where all the problems are worked out. Because, like, remember Lee, he's still sad about Rachel leaving him after Thanksgiving, but they blindfold him, and they blindfold her, and they have them go up and kiss, and then they're like, before they even take the blindfolds off, they're like, I missed you, and now they're back together.
It'd be awkward if they weren't with each other.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, that is, like, a thing I see in movies and stuff that's, like, cute, where, like, they know each other so well they recognize each other's kisses. Which is something, I'm sure, to somebody. And but it was like, then he just says, like, I'm so sorry I ever made you feel like you weren't the most important person in my life. Please give me another chance and you'll never feel like that again. I can't lose you. And then she just says, you're not going to. And I was just like, movie, I'm kind of mad at you for making me think that this is cute when I really feel like Rachel needs to leave and move on.
I know. Yeah.
But then there's this other side plot that was kind of boiling. Like, it's not that I minded it, like, and I really liked it, but I had no idea who these people were. So there's like this guy and he's kind of sporty, and then there's this British guy who's like the committee president, maybe, I'm not sure. But throughout the movie, they just kind of hint, like, that there's, like, at least a little bit of a flirtationship going. And Joey notices it, and she talks to the jock guy. And he's like, yeah, like, I like him, but, like, I don't know if I could talk to him about it or not. And then Joey's like, like, it's none of my business. Like, I shouldn't have even asked. But, like, I think you should be happy, and I think your friends will be happy if you're happy. And he's like, thanks. And, like, they have, like, this talk. And I was like, that was a nice moment. I mean, yeah. I don't know who you are or why we're focusing on you at all. But, like, cool.
Because they wanted to be diverse.
It was really, like, shoehorned in. But I didn't mind it because, like, what happens is, like, cute or whatever, I guess. I don't know. But then at the kissing booth, it's the jock guy. He's one of the people with a blindfold on. And the girl comes up to him and she gave her ticket. She's waiting to be kissed. And then he's like, no, I can't do this. So he takes the blindfold off and he goes down to the audience and he stands in front of British guy. And then British guy gives him his ticket. And then they're together. And then Tuppen, who I said was best boy, goes like, oh! He claps so hard. He's like really for it. I'm not even doing it justice. Like, it was a battle cry this man had. He was ready.
That's amazing.
It was so beautiful. So then that happens at the kissing booth, and then, like, now it's Joey's going up, and she's got her blindfold on, and then my roommate was like, okay, if I'm right, if she kisses him at the kissing booth, new guy, then you owe me dinner. But they didn't kiss, so I don't owe her anything.
So, does she owe you something?
I was afraid I'd lose, so I didn't really think about making any.
You didn't have confidence in yourself. That's when you make, like, the most outlandish bet, though.
Yeah.
If you win.
Well, this is why I don't gamble.
This is why, because you don't know how.
Yeah, exactly. So then he's like, he gives her the ticket, and he's like, I just thought this would give me a moment of your time. You haven't been talking to me. And then she's like, okay. And then this is where they have the thing where this is my problem with this and pretty much every movie like it. They did the same thing with To All the Boys I Loved Before, where they bring in this new guy, and the glaring thing that I keep noticing is like, wow, look at this uncomplicated relationship with two people who have similar interests, who get along great, who have long conversations together, who really get to know each other, and honestly should just probably be in a relationship together. But then the answer is nope, because this isn't complicated. Love is messy. Love is real. And we're not under the rain in a gazebo with your big tall body lurching over me. We can't be together, Marco. There's nothing between us.
Okay. All right.
So she leaves and she runs to the airport. She's got a motorcycle. So she gets to the airport and then Chloe's there.
She has a motorcycle, but she runs there instead.
No, she runs to her motorcycle and then to the airport. or something. Actually, I don't really remember her mode of transportation. But she rode a motorcycle other times, so hopefully she took that.
Then, that's why she's not like other girls.
Oh, I think Lee took her. No, that was a different time that they ran away.
I was just saying, then Rachel was like, "You're ditching me again?"
She's like, "We just got back together." No, that was a different time. I forgot. They run away from Marco a few times in this movie. He just wants some answers. Then, so she goes to the airport, and then Chloe's there, and then she's like, "Oh, he went to go meet you." And then she's like, "Oh my gosh, I've been so dumb." And then she's like, Chloe's like, "Yeah, no, he brought me here because he was just hoping that you and I could be friends."
That's not a good reason. I'm sorry. Because, and even on her part, too.
That's not a good reason, but also just, yeah, going along with this, okay, I'm down to be, I think it is. And then, okay, well, before we talk.
Okay, that's not a good reason. Let me explain why.
Okay.
In case it's not obvious. It's not a good reason because he knows that she is wary of this girl.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just bring her with you on a flight. I don't know where they live.
They're in Boston going to California.
Okay, so across the country. And just be like, "Oh, I just brought her so that you two can be friends." That's so, because that's sounds like such a thin alibi.
Yeah, it really does. But then, we have more to dissect about this whole thing. But then she's like, "Okay, I feel a little bit better." Then Noah texts her, and he's like, "Where are you?" And then she's like, "At the airport, silly head." And then he's like, "Okay, meet at our spot." And then they meet at the gazebo.
A regular gift of the magic.
And so they go to the gazebo and they just run into each other's arms and they kiss.
And then it starts raining.
But then she's like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, "It's okay. I don't care that you kissed him. I just need to know, do you love me?" And then she's like, "Yes, you have my heart, always. I always love you. It's only you." And then he's like, "Okay." And with Chloe, so here's what happened. Here's his explanation for this nonsense. Instead of just talking to her about it, he waits till now. Him and Chloe just hit it off. He didn't know a lot of people there. She sort of took him under his wing and started showing him around and introducing him to her friends. And he was always jealous of what Joey King and Lee had. And he just wanted the same thing.
That's dumb.
I don't know why he couldn't just tell her that. Yeah, I met this girl, and it's, kind of nice. It's kind of what, you and Lee have. It's nice just having a friend who doesn't think I'm, all that or whatever. Since Joey has a platonic male best friend, I think she'd be the person who would understand that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Knowing this, I wouldn't be surprised if they went the misunderstanding route, or double standard route, I guess. But now she finishes her college essay, and she just writes, "I don't know who I want to be in 5 years, but..."
That's not a good way to start a college essay.
She said other words. But it's
still.
Yeah, but it's where am I going to be? I don't know. But I do know that when I get there, I want to have, my dad's warmth, my Noah's smarts, my best friend's laughter, and, all this stuff.
Here's the thing about college essays, is they want you to have a 5-year plan. That's why they ask you to write it. They don't give it to you so you can be like, "I don't know, but whatever I am when I get there, I'm gonna have all these personality traits." They're like, "That's cool and everything, but can you have a job so that our university is accredited?"
Yeah,
more?
that. Yeah, that is, because I was thinking about that, okay, this is beautifully written. Like let's pretend like you brought me to tears with this essay. But I would rather give the spot to this girl over here with basically the same stats as you, who definitely knows where she wants to go, so we're going to help her get there.
Yeah, she wants to be a brain surgeon, so we're going to go ahead and go with that one. And also, here's the thing. They get so many, obviously, they get essays from all of their applicants, and her counselor had to have told her this. If they don't like the first sentence, they'll just immediately throw it in the trash. They're not going to waste their time with the rest of the essay. So starting it out with, I don't know who I'm going to be in 5 years.
Yeah.
Not a good start. That's just going to go right in the garbage.
And and I get that they're trying to do that thing where, they're trying to... It
would be better if it was for a high school assignment, honestly.
Yeah, well, they were definitely trying to breakfast club it, where it's this is a dumb prompt, because, of course, how am I supposed to know where I want to be or what I'm going to do? I'm still trying to figure out who I am. But, no. Sometimes beautiful words and nothingness doesn't get you anything.
Right.
So it's graduation, and... then Noah's there, and Joey, King, and Lee, and Rachel, they're in their cap and gown, and they're heading out. And, they're, just talking about what they're gonna do, and then Lee announces that he got into Berkeley, and they're both, expectant, oh, well, did you get into, what did you get into? And then she said she got waitlisted for both.
You should have had a third backup. Or, I guess, a second backup.
Yeah, a backup.
Backup.
And then, they're like, oh, that stinks. But then they're like, you know what? But this is still the start of summer, so let's have fun. So then they go, if you're not familiar with California,
you almost say Canada?
And huh?
I said, did you almost say Canada?
Yeah, I think I did. But if you're not familiar with California, by the beach there are some canyons. I think there are lots of other places in the world that have canyons, but these are it's a freeway, but it's also the canyons. And they decide to just start racing each other there, and I literally just watched it and went, unsafe. Because they're speeding up on the bend.
Yeah, that's scary.
Stop! And it's there's only the 2 lanes, and I just was thinking this is awful for everybody.
That kind of thing gives me anxiety. Having to drive in the mountains where it's 1 lane and there's a sheer cliff.
Yeah.
5 feet away from your car. I'm anxiety.
Yeah, so the fact that they were just catching up with each other and also talking to each other through the window to the motorcycle and stuff, I was like, this is awful. Please.
Children, slow down.
Yeah, take some time.
Wouldn't that be great if the movie ended with them careening off the side of the canyon and none of them get to go to college?
Oh, no. There's one thing I forgot to mention, though. While they're just, telling each other where they're going to school and everything, Marco looks over at her. And this other guy walks by. I believe it's Tuppen. It might be somebody else. And he's like, hey, don't worry about it, man. She's just not the one. And he watches them for a bit. And then he's alone now. And he's like, yeah, she is.
Ew.
And we go to this. We earlier saw her looking at her letters from Berkeley and Harvard. And I think there were 2 other envelopes or whatever. But we didn't see her open it. Then she told us she got waitlisted. Then at the end of it, after their fun race, we go back to that scene and she opens it. It turns out she got accepted to both.
Okay.
And
she gets both hot guys and she gets into 2 really good schools.
Mm-hmm. But now...
with her dumb essay.
But now... we don't know. Is she going to choose her best friend at Berkeley or her boyfriend at Harvard?
I thought we learned earlier on in the movie that the moral of the story was sometimes you got to choose your significant other over your best friend.
she's not sure if this is one of those times.
Okay.
But I have good news because they pulled Back to the Future. And at the same time that they recorded this movie, they recorded the third. So it'll be out next year. So we'll get to see something.
So they're going to do that thing that's really popular in teen romance, love triangles, where the whole series, it's like, is it going to be Noah or
Marco?
Marco, thank you. I just went blank on it. Is it going to be Noah or Marco? And they're both going to be pursuing her, and neither of them will give up for no real reason, even though one of them definitely should, because that's a losing battle.
Honestly, as long as they don't pull a Twilight, I think I can accept whatever nonsense they spew.
I'm sure they're gonna. It already sounds like they're pulling a Twilight.
I guess I just mean if the end result isn't that the only reason Marco falls out of love with Joey King is because he falls into love with her daughter. As long as we can avoid that, I think we're good. Oh my gosh, Stephanie Meyer, the bar you set. So, what did you think? Did I give you some gourmet trash today?
Yeah, it was gourmet trash.
Thank you for coming into Dish, and thank you guys for listening. And remember to comment, like, and subscribe, because we all need friends. Okay.
Bye.